Hey guys, welcome to the new project where we are going to be attempting to retrofit a, I believe, Gen 6 Camaro steering wheel into a Gen 5 car. Just like the Mustang, there are going to be some hiccups and things that are going to attempt to roadblock us from getting this done. But my plan is, if we can't do it physically through physical electronics and hardware changes, then we will attempt to do something software-wise. So climb aboard the train and we are going to dive right in. So the first thing I want to touch base with you guys on is the steering wheels. So there's a couple different, let's say, options here, but not as widely varied as I would say the Mustang. So if we're thinking about our Gen 5 Camaro steering wheel, my understanding is that this one on the bottom right here was kind of the early gen Camaro steering wheel. I want to say it was 2000, maybe 10 or 11. The one on the left is the standard Gen 5 that I know is in my wife's 2012. And I believe that goes up to 2014 or 2015. Over here, you have the 6th gen steering wheel, and you can see that there's a couple of significant changes. The shape of the airbag is different, so right off the bat, you're not going to have cross-generational airbag compatibility. So we're going to need to make sure that our airbag squib connectors are either transferable or we will have to swap the clock spring. The other thing you'll notice is that the Gen 6 steering wheel has these buttons hidden on the bottom here for favorite up, favorite down, volume up, volume down, and so on. But the most important thing that we're going to run into is twofold. One, we have this D-pad here, which I believe is what helps control your digital instrument cluster. We don't really necessarily have that on the Gen 5 Camaro. But what we do have, or what else we have, is we do have our talk, push to talk, and our hang up buttons, which is very similar here, our push to talk and hang up. We do have our set minus, our resume plus buttons where you flip this tab up and down. But there is a little bit of a difference here. And the further we dive in as it pertains to the cruise control and the heating element, the more varied things become. But we'll go over that in just a second. One of the things that I've heard people talk about is, I believe it's the 7th generation Corvette, but I might be wrong here. At some point, the Corvette had what people say is a compatible or a similar steering wheel. The only thing I want you guys to note is that if you do go down this route, just keep in mind, once again, if you look at them visually, the airbags are not compatible. The Corvette actually has a larger plastic bezel fascia here, and the airbag is a little bit more contained, while the Camaro kind of envelops the entire area over here. So what I believe is that if you do buy the Corvette steering wheel, you're either going to be, I guess you could switch over from this to this, but the only thing to keep in mind is that this fascia goes all the way around, including the switches, and the fascias are a little bit smaller with the Camaro, so you may not just be easily able to say, all right, I'm going to get rid of this airbag, get rid of this fascia, and use the Camaro airbag. You'll probably also need these little bezels here. And the same is probably the case with the Cor. If you decide you want to go with the Corvette look, but you bought a Camaro steering wheel, you're going to have to get not just the airbag, but also this fascia here. Okay, so one last thing I did want to touch on here is that when we get into the actual details, notice on this left switch on the Camaro here, there's an extra little button over here, and it's got a little slit in the middle, whereas this one has a button, but there's no slit. This is because depending on whether or not you opted to have a heated steering wheel, you're going to have a slightly different setup here. So the heated steering wheel has an actual light LED indicator of whether or not the heated element has been activated. This is a momentary toggle switch or tactile switch. A momentary switch, not a toggle switch. Interestingly enough, this is also a momentary switch for activating your cruise control. And based on that, you can notice that in the case of the heating element, they basically get rid of this cancel button entirely, and they relocate the cruise control activation button to the center here. So just some things you want to think about as you get into this project. If you decide you're going to source yourself a steering wheel, there are a couple things to keep in mind. So make sure you make the decision up front. The Corvette, as far as I've figured out and as far as the research I've done, never had the heated steering wheel as an option. So that is something you would want to consider if you decide you want the heated steering wheel. The other thing is the non-heated steering wheel has a slightly different wiring setup than the heated steering wheel. So make that decision up front, because unfortunately there are some important things that are not going to be interchangeable. One of the key things I'll mention and why it's important is the heated steering wheel button here is not just simply a button you can press and all of a sudden you have heat. There is a heated steering wheel module that actually lives inside the steering wheel right behind here that controls all of the heating element. So if you think, oh, I'm going to just buy a steering wheel and it doesn't have the heating function, sorry, not here, it's on this one, it's living behind here. If you think I'm just going to buy a steering wheel and then maybe I'll retrofit the heating stuff later, no, that doesn't work, because A, you won't have the heating element or the thermistor in the wheel itself. B, you won't have the heated steering wheel module. And C, you won't have the heated button. The last thing, and I think I have to double check the wiring diagram, but on the flip side, if you get your hands on a heated steering wheel, you don't want the heating element, or you don't want to go through the work of that, you just want to deal with your cruise control, you may be able to swap this out and put in a cruise control switch if that's what you so decide. But I'm not sure on the harness. That's something we'll learn about as we get further in this project. And I'm trying to think of what else I want to cover. But ultimately, what I decided to go with is I went with the 6th gen steering wheel. Let's get this on the next page. I decided to go with the 6th gen steering wheel with the heating element. That's primarily because after my wife saw my heated steering wheel in my Mustang, she said, oh, that'd be awesome. And, I think it would be a cool challenge to be able to pull that off and deliver her a OEM style heated steering wheel for her with the new upgraded switches, with the new favorite plus and minus, and the volume plus. I think it would be really cool. So that's it. That's our short introduction to this project. And I hope you guys stick around. The next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna take a look at how the actual switches operate between the 5th gen and the 6th gen and the differences between them, and we'll formulate a plan on how we are going to tackle each of those accordingly. Well, that's it, guys. I hope I will catch you in the next one. See ya.